This episode of Every Edition is sponsored by Night Theory Games. They just released their 8th micro RPG, Totally Radical Monster Friends Arcade. Team up with your mutated monster friends to fight crime and the forces of evil in this tabletop RPG inspired by classic 90s era cartoons and arcade games. You can find this and more at nighttheorygames.com.
Hello and welcome to Every Edition, your tabletop RPG talk show. I'm Jesse.
I'm John.
In this episode's Loot the Body, we're going to take a look at the BX supplement, Petty Gods.
And our random encounter will be speaking with Eric Bloat from Bloat Games, about to release a Kickstarter for Dark Places and Demogorgons for Old School Essentials.
And of course, we have our morale check where we take a look at news of the week and things going on in our industry. But first, what's new, John?
Well, so I participate in a HeroQuest fan Facebook group called Ye Old Inn. And on Ye Old Inn, there are a number of fan-created things to kind of help enhance your HeroQuest game. And so I was chosen for a playtest of a fan-made series of cards to help the HeroQuest game with potions and with weapons. And so I'm going to be play testing, and I could show it to those of you on the video here, an armory pack, advanced armory pack of cards from Justin Fritz, who's putting these out. And you can find more information on Ye Old Inn on Facebook, and I'll be doing a play test of that. And it's a random thing. You open up a pack, and everybody gets random equipment, and then you're off and running with your board game adventures.
I'm curious to see what the cards look like.
Yeah, they look great. He sent me a couple foil cards, but I was really honored. Thank you, Justin, for choosing me as one of the 6 play testers, and I'm excited to share more once I play tested. So, Jesse, what's new?
Well, we at the top of the year, if you remember, like a dozen episodes ago, we said that the year of 2022 was the year of sci-fi and all things RPG tabletop.
I remember that.
And coming up next week, we're actually playing the Jumpstart kit for Cyberpunk Red.
Let's go.
Finally. I've been waiting since this came out to be able to run it. Our regular group of RPG folk like to try out new things and help us sort of get ready for our random encounters and stuff as we sort of mix that in with the show. I'm super excited to dive into this and hopefully have some sort of review for the mini adventure and the Jumpstart kit as a whole.
Yeah, fun to play it, and then hopefully get a couple episodes covering Cyberpunk Red and Artel Saurian and get a new game here in our rotation.
It should be fun.
Okay, it's time for a morale check. Our morale checks are when we take a look at the tabletop role-playing game news of our time. And right now on Kickstarter, Appendix and Entertainment has their Gateway to Adventure trilogy. It's a series of books that are covering variant and optional rules for Old School Essentials. Nice. So one of the books is going to be a class compendium, which is going to include a class for leprechauns, but also for duck people. Like, so you play Howard the Duck. The second book is going to be Combat Conspectus, which is going to be combat styles, alternative ways of doing initiative and saving throw variants. Sure. So very sort of crunchy combat variants. And then the third book is a Caster's Codex. And you can imagine that's going to be new spells and spell lists and alternate forms of magic. So this series, Appendix and Entertainment's been coming out with small zines with individual classes in them. And so they're collecting those into their class compendium, and then these other 2 books are brand new things that at least I'm not familiar with that they're going to be putting out. So the Kickstarter, they're like, at the time of this recording, they're literally like $100 away from funding. So if you're hearing this, jump on over to Kickstarter, find Appendix and Entertainment, and if you play Old School Essentials, this seems like a fantastic set of optional rules to throw in and mix up your game.
Speaking of new and optional rules, the Unearthed Arcana for One D&D, latest Unearthed Arcana, dropped very recently. It has rules for new Bard College of Lore, Ranger stuff, Thief stuff for rogues, and of course feats. I've not had a chance to sort of siphon through all the information yet, but it is available. Go play test, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a random encounter in the future.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but definitely that's probably going to be what I do this weekend. Is give it a hard read. In other news, Troll Lord Games has a Kickstarter right now for the 7th book in their historical Codex series. This one is called the Codex Sinarum, and Sinarum is Latin for of China. And so they recently released the Codex Egyptium, ancient Egypt, right? The Codex Celtarum, which was their Celtic book, and the Codex Nordica, their Nordic book. And so this is going to be the next in the series. I'm pretty excited to see what ideas they have for including, fairy tales and lore and fantasy ideas from ancient China. So like I said, it's a historical series, 7th book. So far, they've been really great, really well researched and informative.
Clearly doing well.
Clearly doing well. If they're on their 7th book, right? And they are kind of neutral. They're written for Castles and Crusades, but I mean, even if you're not playing Castles and Crusades, it is just a treasure trove, a wealth of great information that you can bring to your table and for home brewers. So check it out, Troll Lord Games, Codex Sinarum, right now on Kickstarter.
And finally, special thanks to our sponsor, Night Theory Games. Night Theory Games is a husband and wife duo, game design duo. They've been working on trying to bring to the table affordable tabletop games in an industry where everything just seems to go up and up and up in price, and adding in microtransactions and things like that.
Yep.
They're doing great work. They're working on their 8th micro RPG now, which seems awesome. We've always talked about our appreciation for games that are easy to pick up and something that we could theoretically bring on a camping trip and just sort of get everybody around the table for a couple hours.
The thing I like about Night Theory Games, besides the fact that the cost is low, is it seems like their games are sort of like a cross between a role-playing game and a party game almost.
Sure.
Like they're small enough and compact enough that if you're getting together with a group of friends for a night and maybe there's going to be a little bit more libation or a little less emphasis on character leveling up and that sort of type of game. These are just sort of fun games for you to throw down with a couple of friends if they happen to also enjoy role playing. The one game in particular, they have a 5-game bundle, and the one game in particular that jumped out to me was Death of the Mountain King, which kind of reminded me of like Mafia.
Oh, sure.
Or like Werewolf, those types of card games, except this time you are, it's a role-playing game and you are a dwarf who is fighting for becoming the next king. You're fighting for succession.
Sure.
Right. And so very interesting take on that sort of like hidden agenda type of game.
And of course, all of their micro RPGs have different themes. Like they're not all fantasy themes. There's some that were like ninja themes and sort of anime themes.
Right.
Fantasy one, the latest one, the totally radical Monster Friends arcade seems like right up our alley with like hitting the nostalgia sort of 90s aspect of it. They seem really great.
Yeah, so it'll only set you back a couple bucks. Check out nighttheorygames.com. And tell them Every Edition sent you. So what's your beer and pretzel game? If you have a night where you're supposed to be getting together with friends and your ordinary game night is old scheduling monster comes up and makes it impossible for you to get together, somebody can't make it, what's your alternative to your normal character-focused leveling up kind of game? Let us know. everyeditionrpg@gmail.com. You can also find links to all of our socials at everyeditionrpg.com. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, or if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple or any of our podcasts, please make sure to hit that bell for notification of future episodes.
My favorite beer and pretzel game to bring out when the scheduling monster comes around is Tales from the Loop from Free League. It's actually like a really good representation of a one-shot. I really like games that you can pick up and play in only a couple hours. You don't really have to worry about character creation, anything like that. And it's really relatively simple, straightforward. There's only D6s, really easy to teach people, and it's a fun nostalgia hit for a lot of people too. So I really like that.
So let us know what you play when your normal schedule doesn't allow for that character development, story-focused storytelling game. What's your alternative? Mine's Fiasco.
Okay.
I love, from Bully Pulpit Games, I love Fiasco. It's a fantastic improvisation game. It's for no more than 5 players, so it's really great when you have that 6th person can't make it or whatever. And it really is just a one-shot focus on role-playing primarily and cooperative storytelling. So if you've never heard of Fiasco, check it out, Bully Pulpit Games. And send us a note, everyeditionrpg@gmail.com, and find links to all of our socials, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all that good stuff at everyeditionrpg.com. Okay, it's time for a random encounter. Today's random encounter, we are speaking with Eric Bloat. Hello, Eric.
Hello, Eric.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on. It's great to be here and talking to y'all.
Yeah.
And after watching watching your episodes, I'm a pretty big fan of what you got going on. So
oh, thanks, Eric.
Appreciate it.
Well, we are big fans of Bloat Games. I had an opportunity at Origins this past summer to play in a Dark Places and Demogorgons game. Now, truth be told, I knew I was going to love it before I played it. But when I played it and got the cassette tape characters, as soon as the game was over, I went right to your table and I said, "What do you have? That's Dark Places and Demogorgons.
Buy it all.
Give me the lot." And I'm also glad I did that because some of the stuff is now out of print.
Oh,
it is.
It looks like.
Yeah.
But so for those people that don't know, tell our listeners what is Dark Places and Demogorgons.
Cool. All right. Well, Dark Places and Demogorgons was my second attempt at a full role-playing game. But when I say my second attempt, our first attempt was a game called Survive This Zombies. And it was broken up into 4 little mini booklets that were supposed to kind of mimic the old school, white box Dungeons and Dragons booklets.
Okay.
But this was my first time doing a full book game. And I kind of got the inspiration. I know where I got the inspiration, but I was watching the first episode of Stranger Things.
Sure.
And literally 10 minutes into it, I said, "Why isn't this a role-playing game?"
Yep.
And I went to work writing it, and 2 days later, a Kickstarter for a little game called Tales from the Loop came out.
Right.
Sure.
And I said, "Forget it. It's too close to what they're doing." But then I started looking, and after a while, I said, "Wait, what I'm trying to accomplish is different enough from what they were doing to try to do it." And so went from there. But really, what Dark Place and Demogorgons is. It's a game that's set in the 1980s. You play as normal high school teenagers in a small town. Weird things start happening all around. Monsters start coming up. Your parents are too busy to help. The police don't believe you. Your teachers hate you. So it's up to you and your friends to figure out what's going on and stop it from happening again.
The plot of every great 80s movie, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's a total nostalgia trip. Yeah. If you love 80s movies like The Goonies or Monster Squad or E.T. or any of that kind of stuff, I mean, this is the best. I mean, you mentioned Tales from the Loop. I've played both. Yep. You've played Tales from the Loop. They are very different games, though, right?
They really are.
Yeah. So
a lot of games get like Tales from the Loop, Kids on Bikes, Dark Places and Demogorgons, Stranger Stuff. There's a whole bunch of us that did games that are set in the 1980s, and a lot of times people will kind of hand wave, "Oh, that's one of those 1980s games," but really, as coming from a guy who spent a lot of time playing my game and other games to see them, really all the games kind of accomplish different things that they set out to accomplish. So they're all very different games, even though the basic setting is the same. It's kind of like having a fantasy game. It's saying, well, Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer Fantasy are exactly the same because they're fantasy.
Right.
No, it's totally. The Burning Wheel is the same as Dungeons. No, they all do different things.
Exactly. Yeah, and it seems like for Dark Places and Demogorgons anyway, there's more of a sort of traditional Dungeons and Dragons emphasis on being able to level up, right?
Yes.
So, right, and it definitely has that inspiration from from BX, from White Box, Dungeons and Dragons from the earliest.
Right.
versions.
Yeah. The Dark Places and Demogorgons. System-wise, it's part of what we call our Survive This gaming system. Mm-hmm. So we got a ton of games. They all use the same system, and so you can kind of mix and match different like rules. So like the Survive This Zombies, you could take zombies from Survive This Zombies, put in Dark Places Demogorgons, pow, you got the Return of the Living Dead.
Nice.
So and they're mechanically they're all interchangeable, but what really they are is it's a D20 open game and license game, but it's essentially my house rules for how I run BX inspired D&D. So it comes from me being a GM for 20 plus years. This is what it evolved to, and then it's just got stuff like mixed in there from 5th edition. You're going to find advantage, disadvantage. You're going to find stuff really kind of that hits from everywhere. I kind of tried to pick the best rules that I could and go with that.
Excellent.
But that's where the original Survive This Dark Place Demogorgons comes from.
Great. Well, and so the reason we're here today interviewing you is because you are, well, at the time of this recording, about to launch a Kickstarter, but at the time those of you who are watching or listening will have already launched and is open right now, a Kickstarter for Dark Places and Demogorgons for Old School Essentials, right?
Yes,
so tell us about that Kickstarter, what you're looking forward to, where you are in the process, the sleepless nights, whatever you want to share, please.
Sure. Well, it's been something that I've been working on now for about 4 months. First off, I love Old School Essentials by Necrotic Gnome Games.
Me too.
I think what Gavin Norman did as far as cleaning up and making BX Dungeons and Dragons much more usable, much more succinct, much more easy to understand, I think it's amazing. So I'm going into this as a huge fan of what Gavin was able to do with that game system. How and why Dark Places Demogorgons has come into Old School Essentials really boils down to at cons and stuff, and when we're running games out, and then even just through the website, we get a lot of requests for two things. One is for 5th edition Dungeons, or a conversion to 5th edition or 5th edition rule set. The other one is for people will say, well, will you make an OSR version of that? And my response is always, Survive This is an OSR game.
Yeah.
That's the intent. That's the flavor. That's the tone.
Yep.
But then there's some people who they don't want to learn anything different. They've been playing the same rule system for 20 years. So for us, if I was going to convert it to anything else, Old School Essentials 100% was the way to go with that.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Now, where we're going, like as far as with the Kickstarter, like I said, I've been working on it for about 4 months. So I've been working with tons of artists, getting in tons of art. Well, not really tons of art. Five artists,
Nice.
Specifically Runehammer, also goes by Hankrin Infernal. The guy who created Index Card RPG, he's doing all the covers for the Old School Essential stuff.
Cool.
Then Phil Stone, another one of like the industry leaders as far as art goes. He's worked on a lot of stuff with us. He's back again doing the majority of the heavy lifting. We're working with a new artist named Christopher Torres. He's very detailed, very skilled. I really love what he's doing, bringing to this game. And then we got like Bradley K. McDivitt, who's known primarily for, well, he's worked for just about everybody, but he's known for doing a ton of stuff for Goodman Games, so like Dungeon Crawl Classics, Meme Crawl Classics, stuff like that. So, and then a few pieces from the original Dark Places and Demogorgons are making their way in. We lost one of our artistic contributors from the original to Survive This Dark Places and Demogorgons. His name was Joe Singleton. And so to honor him, we're legacying in a few of his pieces.
Nice.
And making sure he's part of this group.
Cool.
So that's what I've been working on so far as leading up to it. But then also myself and Pete Spahn, who is best known for, he owns Small Niche Games. He also created a game called Operation White Box, which is World War II through the prism of White Box Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
Amazing game. If you ever get a chance, I highly recommend checking it out. Pete
That
does
sounds
great
cool.
stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm so focused on the games that we've made, I wanted to bring someone else in. So I brought Pete in, and then I ended up actually bringing in another gentleman by the name of Jeff Seifert, who's done some work for us. He's worked in the DCC field. So he's, OSR and OSR adjacent stuff for a long time.
Great.
So we're doing all the conversion. Let's see. Really excited. Another portion of what I've been working on is the stretch goals.
Yes.
So for the stretch goals, we got 13 stretch goals, and really they're all planned. They're all planned, and 5 of them are just upgrades to the book, so better book quality.
Okay.
So things like Smithsonian binding, better end paper, higher weight paper, things like that. So
book ribbon.
Stuff that you see. Ribbon is the last one, and I hope we hit it.
Yes.
But yes,
everybody,
ribbon
please.
is there as well.
Great.
But then also, I've been doing this a long time, and I've worked with most people, and I got good relationships with many of the game publishers and game writers in the field. So I was able to secure like 8 of the best people to come on board and write games. So we got games not games, but adventures as stretch goes. So we got adventures being written by people like Alan Barr of Gallant Knight Gaming. So he made Tiny Dungeons.
Yeah.
We got adventures by James M. Spawn. He's done a ton of white box stuff, but he's also known primarily for the Hero's Journey 1st and 2nd edition.
Yeah.
Amazing games.
Yep.
We got Bridget Jeffries. She has been writer for several different like Call of Cthulhu and Cthulhu Mythos type games.
Cool.
Like that. We're bringing on Jody Brandt, who is probably best known as Questwise on YouTube.
Okay.
He does reviews and stuff.
Yeah.
But he's also worked with us in the past. Josh Palmer, my writing partner, is going to be writing some. So we got like Levi Combs from Planet X Games. He makes a ton of old school type stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, we got just a ton of people doing stuff. And what I really wanted to do, and what I kind of want everybody to know who's backing, this is stuff that's all planned. So a lot of times Kickstarters will add on stretch goals and it starts pushing back the due dates.
Yeah.
Right.
Pushing back stuff. 2 things. One, I put the due date on this way out in advance. So the due date isn't until July of next year.
Sure.
Okay.
With that said, I plan on delivering in March, but weird things happen in this economy. And so I got a buffer, but also these stretch goals aren't adding any additional time. This is stuff that's all happening while it's going on. So basically I'm treating this all as one project, even though really it's 3 games and 8 adventures. It's all one project that'll all come to fruition at the same time.
Fantastic. So the stretch goal adventures how are they going to be released?
All right. So how they're going to be released is through our Kickstarter. Anybody who backs at any level will be able to get any unlocked stretch goals in PDF form. Nice. So if you back at any level, you'll get them in PDF. So if they're all 8 are unlocked, which I do plan, I do believe all 8 will be unlocked. Great. You never know, it's Kickstarter.
Yeah.
But, all the ones that are unlocked will be released PDF to the backers.
Great.
Then also, there's a couple tiers that say, give me everything in print. So you get them in print through that. And also, if you just go in and say, because we're putting up 3 books, and 2 of the books are the same book with just different covers. Mm-hmm. So say you just I just want the main Dark Places Demogorgons book. That's all I want. But I do want those stretch goals in print. There's an add-on that's $110, gets you 8 adventures in print and digital form added to your book. So that is an option as well.
Very cool. All right. So it sounds like you're really going to be able to customize and get exactly what it is you want.
We're trying our best to make sure that everybody who wants to back is covered. Also, we've had nightmare. There's been our shipping overseas has become a nightmare for U.S. publishers. It's just horrible. We worked out a way that all of our international friends and backers can, get stuff in print as well. So we're doing our best to get everybody taken care of who wants to be a part of this Kickstarter.
That's great. And I heard you say when we were talking about the reason for going with old school essentials, it really sounds like it's just breaking down a potential barrier to somebody playing Dark Places and Demogorgons, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah. I tell people, anybody who comes up to any of the conventions we do, if you come to the booth and you get the pitch for Survive This Dark Places Demogorgons, the old one. I tell them, if you've played any version of Dungeons and Dragons, except maybe fourth, because that one's a little different, you'll pick up our book and know how to play in 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Old School Essential, if you played any version of BX D&D or old Redbox D&D, you're going to know how to play the Dark Places Demogorgons for Old School Essentials immediately. There's not even a 5-minute learning curve.
So can I ask you a mechanic question?
You sure can.
So thinking about Survive This and thinking about Old School Essentials, what's going to happen to survival points?
Survival points will not be part of it. That's going to be. Well, let me take that back. In the back of the core book, there's going to be a appendix section, which is going to have tons of optional rules, and that's going to be listed as an optional rule.
Sure.
But that's all going to be optional. Everything that we're doing is going to stay 100% mechanically compatible with what Gavin Norman and Necrotic Gnome did with Old School Essentials. So we're not deviating from that anyway, but there will be several different things that will have optional rules for GMs who like to spice up their campaigns and change things up.
Sounds like a great way to do it. It really does. That's exciting. Okay, wonderful. And I plan on interesting, like how this version, the Old School Essentials version, breaks down a barrier, makes it easier maybe for somebody to pick up the game and play it. I plan on using the Old School Essentials version of Dark Places and Demogorgons to get people to play Old School Essentials with me, because they won't switch from 5th edition. And I really want to be running a Old School Essentials game, but everybody at my table's on board with playing Dark Places and Demogorgons. They're like, "Oh, we'd love to play 80s game. Let's do that." So I'm waiting until the Old School Essential one comes out, and they'll be like, "Oh, we already learned all that, so let's just keep going." And we'll, So I'm
funny. I was gonna say, it's funny. I get that a lot. A lot of people who will buy our books and stuff say that they did it specifically because their players only will want to play 5th edition,
right?
But they got them to sign on to the 80s thing because the popularity of Stranger Things and things like that.
Sure.
Like, oh yeah, so this is an easy sell. So yeah, I can definitely see working it backwards to get them to go to Old School Essentials.
Absolutely, excited about that. Very excited about that.
So Eric, we've talked about your Kickstarters and the success of everything happening right now, but how did Bloat Games get started?
Okay, so Bloat Games got started in like 2015. Let me take it back a little further. I had always been a person to kind of write my own stuff. So like me and my friends played Rifts a lot back in high school.
Oh, cool.
And so like they would come up with things. They'd be like, "Oh, it'd be really neat to play Rifts if we could have like aliens from like the movie Aliens and Alien involved." And so I would write up scenarios and stuff. And over time, I just kept like writing more and more content, and people would borrow these binders that had all this handwritten content from me when I was younger. And around 2014, I found on YouTube that there was a lot of people who talked about old school D&D, and I discovered what the OSR was and stuff like that. And I saw that these people were publishing their own books. And so in 2015, I just kind of went to my best friend, Josh Palmer, who's now my business partner and writing partner. And I said, "Hey, I want to do this. I think I can figure out how to do this." And he said he was 100% on board. And so that was really what started us. Funny enough, our first game was a card game called List Off, which we still sell, which is kind of like playing. It's a trivia-based card game, but it's kind of like playing Trivial Pursuit and Uno at the same time.
Okay.
So that got us, started. And then I wrote Survive This Zombies, and got it published. Got a little bit of notoriety in the OSR circles for that. And then put out the next big one for us was Dark Places and Demogorgon, which was our first Kickstarter to Survive This version. And I ended up doing like $8,000, had like 375 backers.
Nice.
And it just kind of took off from there. And so that was like 2016, going into 2017, and since then we released like 40 something games. So we're awesome. We're on our way, I guess.
Yes. Well, and Survive This has there's a fantasy supplement for Survive This. There's a 90s sort of like vampire, werewolf, Mage the Ascension inspired, right, World of Darkness inspired version. There's also one that I haven't seen. That's superheroes, right? Vigilante City.
Vigilante City.
Yeah. If you don't mind, this is just for me, everybody. Can you tell me a little bit about Vigilante City? What do I need?
Sure.
What do I need to know?
All right. Well, Vigilante City started as, for anybody who knows me, I'm a huge Batman fan, and my favorite iteration of Batman has always been Batman the Animated Series.
Of course.
So when I decided after the success of Dark Places Demogorgons, I said I'm going to make a Batman the Animated Series game. And then through my writing partner Josh, he is a huge X-Men fan.
Okay.
And of course, I was also a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. So we started kind of talking, going round robin, and we really kind of focused on. There was 4 big cartoons in the 90s that were based on superheroes. So you had Batman the Animated Series, you had the X-Men cartoon, you had Spider-Man the cartoon, and you had, of course, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It started in the 80s, ended in the 90s.
Yep.
And I said, what if we do this all in one game and set it in a city? And that's the beginning for Vigilante City. Then, at that time, I had become friends with Brandish Gilhelm, also known as Runehammer, through YouTube, and I pitched him the idea. Said, "Hey, would you like to do the art?" So Brandish did all the art for the first 2 books, and the majority of the art for the 3rd and 4th book. And then he ended up taking it and converting Vigilante City to Index Card RPG. So there's actually 2 versions of Vigilante City out on the market. It's funny. A lot of times people will say, how did you get the rights from Runehammer to do that? I'm like, that was kind of my game first, but okay. But so that's where that came from. It really was a love letter to Batman the Animated Series, and then expanded to a love letter to those 4 superhero cartoons.
Cool. And that's released as 4 zines, or how is that?
Oh no, those are 4. Well, the first 2, the first one has all the rules for character creation, characters, all that stuff. How to play the game is all in the very first book, and that's like 300 pages.
Oh, okay.
The second book, which is the Villain's Guide, is basically kind of like your monster manuals and DM's guide. So it's going to tell you all about the city, how to create your own city, and it's got tons of villains that you can put up against your people. That book is also about 300 pages. Then we got what we call issue 3, which is superhero team up. It's going to have expanded rules for like team maneuvers, how to build team bases, all that type stuff. That's about a 200-page book. And then we have the last one, which is all based on anthropomorphs, it's called Into the Sewers, which is really a love letter to TMNT. And that one is also about 200 pages. So in all, if you get all 4 books, you're looking at right around 1,000 pages of content.
All right,
that's nice. Okay, so you had your one. I'm gonna have my one that I'm questioning.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious about. I want to hear more about Space Station M.
Oh,
Space Station M. Okay, all right. So we'll come in early 2023. Space Station M is our take, or kind of a love letter to Metroid from the Nintendo Entertainment System. We've been doing this series of zines that the first one was called Overworld, which was a love letter to The Legend of Zelda.
Yep.
Then we ended up doing an Overworld 2 and Overworld 3, and incorporate like the Legend of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link into it. We did Pipe World, which was very much based on Super Mario Brothers 3. And we did Night World, which was based on Castlevania. So now we've kind of been spending a lot of this time really in a fantasy version, because even the Pipe World version is geared towards fantasy. Sure. So now we're jumping in the we call them our retro 8-bit inspired games. We're jumping into the sci-fi version with Space Station M. So all your favorite monsters from the original Metroid. All going to be in there. It's a zine style monster manual, and yeah, it's definitely comes from my love of retro games, specifically from the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Very cool. Yeah, hit that nostalgia button. That's awesome.
Yeah, it seems like a running theme for Bloat is like a lot of nostalgia and a lot of pop culture.
Nothing wrong with that.
It is.
It's good. It's good.
That's good. So I wanted to ask you. You had mentioned before that you played a lot of riffs.
Yes.
As a kid growing up. I also familiar. One of your last Kickstarters was War for the Wasteland.
Yes.
Any connection there, Eric?
No.
No.
No. It's just, the War for the Wasteland. I jokingly said that it is riffs in 16 pages.
Yeah. Which is a Herculean feat, by the way. If you don't, those of you that don't know, oh my gosh, yeah.
So it started off with there's a game called 2400 by Jason Tochi, and he's released a series of games, and they were all like 4 pages long, and they used a very streamlined rules and the different things. And one of them he had was kind of like a cyberpunk version of riffs, I would say. And so I reached out to him, and we kind of become friends. And I said, well, I would like to take your system and kind of use it and make a game that I don't know how well this game would sell if I made like a huge game. So I don't want to put 300 pages and 100 pieces of art into it. So instead, I made a rules minimalist, our first rules minimalist TTRPG here at Bloat Games, and War for the Wasteland was born. And cool. Looking at it, it's very much inspired by riffs. It's more than riffs itself. It's more inspired by specifically Kevin Long, the artist who's did the majority of the art in the early riffs books.
Yeah,
it's really based on his art. His art is what made me fall in love with riffs, and then I got to know the story and stuff, and really loved that and stuff. But had it not been for his art and the covers of those books, I may not have ever picked up riffs. But so it's a kind of, it was everything I do is really, I try to take something I love and turn it into something I think people will like.
Yeah.
And that was me taking my love of Kevin Long's art. And also, Phil Stone did the art for that book, and he is also a huge Kevin Long fan. Nice. So it was a no-brainer for us to team up on that.
Was Kevin Long's art? Is that it has a lot of robots, but then it also has a lot of long gun barrels?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's great stuff. Yeah, I mean, I can remember as a kid being in a game store and just like the covers of Riffs books just like captivating. I mean, that's why anybody picked up their first Riffs book, was because of the covers.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool, awesome.
Well, and funny thing about that, you asked about that game. That game did really well on Kickstarter. It was intended to be a small project, and I really went into it with no expectations of how it was going to do, and it ended up doing really well on Kickstarter. And in fact, my writing partner Josh Palmer has picked it up, and he is going to be turning it into a full 300-page survive this
nice.
Game. So in the future, that one will be out as well.
Great.
That's on down the line a little ways. But yeah, that is something that's coming. So,
and it'll be compatible with Survive This?
All Survive This, yeah.
Nice.
Rock and roll, baby. That sounds good. All right. Cool. Well, Eric, just love what's going on at Bloat Games right now. Really excited to be interviewing you now on the eve of this Kickstarter for the old school essentials version of Dark Places and Demogorgons, and wish you nothing but the best with that Kickstarter and everything else to come. Space Station M and the expanded version of War of the Wasteland and everything. Bloat's really taken off. Where can people find you? Where are you online?
Sure. I'm just about everywhere online. I'm no longer on Instagram. So if you go on Instagram, there is a guy who, if you look up Bloat Games on Instagram, you can find Bloat Games on Instagram. Unfortunately, I was hacked. My Instagram was hacked a while back. And Instagram decided that I am not me and gave that account to another person.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I always warn people, don't go there to Instagram, but I'm on Twitter. Of course, we got our own website, www.bloatgames.com. On Kickstarter, you can find it under Eric from Bloat Games. On Drive-Thru RPG, you can get our stuff there. You can get our stuff on Amazon, Lulu. Facebook, we got several different groups on Facebook who are dedicated to Bloat Games, and some of them are dedicated to specific Bloat Games. Some of them are just Bloat Games in general. We got Discord. So just about everywhere that you would expect us, we're there.
Cool. Any last question? Any conventions coming up for you?
Yeah, we're going to PAX Unplugged, like the first weekend.
It's coming up
in December.
Yeah.
So we will be there. We got a new card game coming out called Play Rewind Eject, which is really fun. We're really looking forward to it. Part of going to these conventions, starting after the pandemic was chilling out, back when conventions opened up, we did a ton of smaller conventions, and then this year we've been focusing on larger conventions. And really what we're finding at these conventions is our card games and our tabletop games outsell our role-playing games 5-1, which is the complete opposite of everything else we do online. And, online people very, very rarely buy our card games and stuff, but we sell a ton of role-playing games.
Sure.
So we're going to be trending, like, for most of our conventions in the future, are going to be trending more towards doing like tabletop stuff. But like if you come see us at PAX, you're going to see I'll have all the Bloat Games books there. We got a 10x20 booth, so we're essentially splitting into two. So we're going to have like our tabletop stuff on one side and our RPGs on the other, and then we're more than happy to chat about any of that with anybody who shows up.
Cool. Well, save me some copies of the Vigilante City, because I'll be in the market.
We'll do.
All right. Well, Eric, thanks a lot, man. It's
Thanks
great to connect with you.
Oh my gosh, thank y'all so much. It's been such a pleasure for y'all to have me on, and I wish you all the best. I share your stuff on Facebook and online and stuff. Y'all got one of the best YouTube shows around right now, so I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
Well, it was great to talk to Eric. I'm really excited about Dark Places and Demogorgons.
Oh, yeah.
I know I haven't played it yet. I'm still waiting for John to run me and the group through. I'm even more excited now. I'm excited for the future of Bloat Games, and to try some of this other stuff like Space Station M.
Yeah.
That one sort of jumped out at me. I'm a big Metroid guy.
Yeah.
So that seems really fun too. But I'm all for the nostalgia hits of the 80s and the 90s. So just bring it on.
Absolutely.
Let us know down in the comments if you've played any of Eric Bloat's games, or you could always send us an email over at everyeditionrpg@gmail.com. You can find links to all of our socials at everyeditionrpg.com, including links to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, our YouTube channel, our Spotify, all of our podcasts, our Patreon. Hope to hear from you. It's time to loot the body. Today we're looking at a BX supplement, Petty Gods. So John, could you tell me a little bit about what BX is? Because that wasn't that was before my time.
Yeah, so BX is the basic and expert version of Dungeons & Dragons, which came out in the early 80s. And Old School Essentials is the representation right now of BX that is currently in print and maybe most popular for being played. So Dark Places and Demogorgons, right? Right in the pocket there. Petty Gods was originally released in 2010. Okay. So it's over 10 years old. But it's back in print on Lulu.com, and it's only about $22, which is
a tome.
Yeah, it is. This is a thick book, right? It's like 360 plus pages of lore and stuff. The focus here is on pantheons of gods or deities. It's kind of similar to the Deities and Demigods book from first edition Dungeons and Dragons. And really, if you were playing back in the 80s and even into the 90s and stuff, those books, the Deities and Demigod books, kind of were less about sort of clerical magic and stuff and more about just another monster book.
Yeah, basically.
Like basically a book of big bads.
Sure.
And so this is a return to that. This really does have more of a feel of being like, hey, this could be the big bad of just about any adventure that you run, or this could be your antagonist, your antagonist for your party. And so if you are a home brewer, especially if you play Old School Essentials or BX, I think that this is almost mandatory for you to have. And it's great that it's back in print and it's so cheap. So what are you getting if you plunk down your $22, $23? You are getting 327 petty gods, 116 minions, 12 cults, and dozens of spells. Like I said, it's like massive tome. The one bad thing I would say about this, or the one, the less than stellar thing about this, is you are going to have to do some conversion if you're using modern armor class, if you're using ascending armor class.
Sure.
Everything in here is in the original BX descending armor class. Again, the great thing about Old School Essentials is it gives you both, so you can choose. This one only gives you descending, so you'll need to do your conversions.
That's an easy fix.
It's an easy fix. It's not a big deal. And I mean, you could write them in pencil right next to the thing. But in terms of the layout and the look of the book, it looks and feels like an Orange Spine first edition book, like the Monster Manual 2, like the Deities and Demigods book. It really it's so evocative of nostalgia, but then also just wonderfully useful for homebrew. So I wanted to bring this to Loot the Body because it's cheap, it's incredible value. And it hasn't been in print for a while.
Back in print.
It's back. So jump on it while you can. I don't know if it's going to disappear again or not. But,
another 10 years.
As soon as I saw that pop back up on Lulu, I jumped on it. And Lulu.com, for those of you that don't know, is a print-on-demand company. So people upload their books, and then you can order them, and they print them right then and there and send them off to you. So check out Petty Gods. This is the expanded compendium. I'm not sure what changed from the earlier edition, because I don't have the earlier edition, but can't recommend this one enough. So head on over to lulu.com, look for Petty Gods, and thank me in the comments.
Special thanks to this episode's sponsor, Night Theory Games. Love tabletop RPGs but don't have the time to learn hundreds of pages of rules? Check out their micro RPGs for creative, compact, and low-cost games, perfect for one-shots or introducing new players to the world of tabletop role-playing games. You can find them at nighttheorygames.com. And thank you for sponsoring the episode.
Yeah, and thank you for listening to the episode and watching the episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that bell, and we'll see you next time.